There's nothing better than sitting down for an evening with a cup of tea and absolutely losing yourself in the world of an amazing video game until before you know it, it's 3 AM, you've forgotten to eat dinner, and you've still got 3 side quests to turn in. Let's take a look at the most immersive games to lose yourself in.
Can you hear me?
Video games are the ultimate form of escapism, with it being just a little bit too easy to forget about your real-world responsibilities because you're too occupied tending to your virtual ones. Whether it's because the world you're exploring is just so gorgeous and vast that you can't bring yourself to turn it off until you've seen every single nook and cranny, or because the level of simulation is so extreme that you just completely forget about the real world you've left behind. Whatever kind of escapism you're looking for, we've put together this list of the most immersive games to lose yourself in 2022. Subscribe to Logitech G and click that notification bell to stay up to date with our latest videos, but in the meantime, buckle up and maybe warn your friends and family that you might be a bit occupied for a few days. Elden Ring certainly isn't for everyone. It's rather unforgiving in its difficulty and offers very little in the way of tutorials to introduce you to its systems and mechanics. But if that just sounds like an exciting challenge to you, then prepare to die immersively, as Elden Ring is the most immersive and captivating Soulsborne game we've ever had the pleasure of dying in. Thanks to an enormous open world absolutely stuffed with winding quests, punishing bosses, and fascinating lore, written by none other than Game of Thrones' George R.R. Martin himself, Elden Ring is a strong contender for our Game of the Year in 2022. What makes Elden Ring unique in its immersiveness, however, is just how little it holds your hand in regards to this open world. There are no quest logs to remind you of what you've done and need to do, or even any real direction besides becoming an Elden Lord. Just like the real world, the lands between is your oyster.
I am the Lord of all that is golden.
If, like us, you've been waiting for Assassin's Creed to make the jump to the gorgeous feudal Japan, developer Sucker Punch has already answered your prayers with the incredible Ghost of Tsushima. Set during the first Mongol invasion of Japan, players take control of the samurai lord Jin Sakai on a quest to gather allies and new skills to protect the island of Tsushima from the Mongolian invaders. While its gameplay takes a lot of leads from Assassin's Creed, it stands out by removing a lot of the traditional UI elements that typically clutter up your screen, instead focusing on allowing the open world to intuitively guide you to its offerings. Focus on the direction that the wind blows in to find your objective rather than simply staring at the minimap at the bottom right of your screen. Follow the paths of foxes and birds to find hidden areas of interest rather than scouring through a map of cluttered icons. Ghost of Tsushima's most prominent design choices are about letting you listen to the world around you. And when it's a world as gorgeous as this, you'd be foolish not to. We could wander the fields of Hyrule for hundreds of hours and still be sad when it's time to leave. While its world isn't as photorealistic like most other entries on this list, Breath of the Wild is still an absolute visual delight to explore. Thanks to its cel-shaded art style, strolling around dense wooded forests is like jumping straight into a Studio Ghibli film. Its sense of immersion doesn't really come from its realism or in-depth mechanics, although its physics-based puzzles and experimental cooking systems are new steps forward in the series. Breath of the Wild's immersive sensibilities rather stem from simply how leisurely it is. For the most immersive experience, you can pair your G345 headset to your Switch to bathe your ears in that floaty, calming score to make for one of the most relaxing video game experiences ever. There's just no better way to unwind at the end of the day than taking Link on a lovely horseback ride across Hyrule. It's not quite the fabled Half-Life 3, but to be quite honest, Half-Life Alyx might be the perfect next step for the Half-Life franchise that we never knew we wanted. Set between the events of Half-Life 1 and 2, this sidequel reimagines the franchise for VR platforms, and definitively sets the bar for what the medium of virtual reality can be. Thanks to the incredibly satisfying gravity gloves, even the simplest gaming minutiae of collecting ammo is a delight, and that's before we even get into the adrenaline-fueled virtual reality combat. Actually having to physically duck behind objects to hide from your foes is the gaming innovation we've been hoping to see since the Virtual Boy. Covering our mouths with our hands to mute the sound of our breathing while trying to stealthily creep around environments is a bone-chillingly tense experience that we won't be able to forget. We just hope we won't have to wait another 13 years for a sequel. VR is easily the most immersive way to experience video games, so it would be a crime to only list one title here. Lone Echo 2 is the perfect entry point for players new to virtual reality, with its relatively simple gameplay demands taking a back seat to the spectacle of zero-gravity movement. Pushing yourself off of beams and structures to give yourself velocity is a magic like no other, and that's not to mention the joys of using wrist-mounted thrusters to pretend that you're Iron Man. This isn't a lonely experience either, as thanks to incredible motion capture performances, conversations with your Captain Liv are breathtakingly lifelike, resulting in one of the most convincing companions VR has seen to date. Until we're able to hop on a commercial spaceflight to Mars, floating around in Lone Echo 2 might be the closest we'll be able to get to feeling weightless for the time being.
I'm going to need your help.
It's not quite as ambitious as going to space, but single-handedly flying a plane is another experience that most of us won't get the opportunity to experience without the magic of video games. That's where Microsoft Flight Simulator comes in. Using an absolutely enormous 2 petabytes of satellite data from Bing Maps, Microsoft Flight Simulator stunningly recreates the topography of the entire Earth. Yep, that's right, the entire Earth. You can fly over your own house if you want. Just keep a good grip on the controls. You can even fly in real-world weather conditions with live air traffic. The mind-blowing level of simulation extends to the cockpit as well, with one-to-one recreation of flight controls for each and every plane. Though, don't worry, you can adjust this to be much more user-friendly. However, if you are looking for an ultra-realistic piloting simulation, combine the experience with our Logitech G flight equipment to really cement the cockpit experience. Keep an eye on your time with this game. It's very easy to spend an entire day flying across these gorgeous views. So, those are 6 of the most immersive games that we love to get lost in 2022. Let us know which games you'll be sacrificing your free time to in the comments below, drop us a like if you enjoyed the video, and subscribe to Logitech G so you never miss another feature. Oh, and hit the notification bell to make sure you know exactly when our latest video arrives on the channel.